Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'll be talking about what I believe is the most unpopular zodiac sign. And yes, this does apply and pertain to the sun, moon, and ascendant. Anyway, people, first thing up is as far as I'm going to start with Aries. Well, it'd be hard pressed for me to think that Aries would be the most unpopular of the zodiac signs. Aries could be very aggressive and assertive, and that could apply to their relationships as well. They're very extroverted. They often will clamor for attention. Leo may automatically get it, but might have to work a little more for it. They thrive on, being on attention, the accolades, getting recognition from others. They often like to be first in whatever it is they do, and they are ones, not to bask in somebody else's shadow, so to speak. It's really hard for me to say they'd be the most unpopular now of the zodiac signs. Now going to Taurus. Well, Taurus certainly can be a viable candidate. I mean, as many of you may know, I have Taurus rising, and um, Taurus can be very reserved, and they are ones that often have secluded, hidebound habits. Taurus generally doesn't expand their friendships and connections beyond their place of employment and their home life. They are ones, it's even hard to get Taurus to go out anywhere because they are just ones that aren't about ingratiating themselves with other people. So it's really hard for me to say that Taurus would be, it'd be easy for me to say that Taurus is at least a viable candidate for the most unpopular zodiac sign award. Now I'm going to a Gemini. Well, Gemini is so vivacious. They can be very outgoing. They are ones that they have such a strong spirit, and they bring that energy to others. They are ones that being a masculine sign, of course, Gemini can be very extroverted. They often are about their variety, versatility, and they could keep people entertained for hours on end because they are so interesting in the fact that they can do many things and they can talk about manifold subjects. Their restlessness may make them hard to stay with one connection for too long, and then they go on to somebody else. They like to have their variety in their relationships, their connections, and so it's really it's hard pressed to say that Gemini would be the most unpopular of the zodiac signs. Gemini does have, again, going to their variety, it can apply to people that they know. They're very adaptable in that sense as well, and they often like to have a wide divergence of friends from different areas, different cultures, different philosophies. So it'd be hard for me to say that Gemini would be the most unpopular of the zodiac signs. Now going to Cancer. Well, Cancer can certainly be a good candidate to be the most unpopular of the zodiac signs. I have a Cancer sun. I understand. I mean, my sun sign is Cancer is what I mean. Cancer is very reserved, very introverted. They're often very homebodies. They can be dominated by their home and family life. It's a little different than Taurus because Taurus is more enamored with their domestic activities, but Cancer is often staying at home due to their family because they're so dedicated and devoted to their home, to their family life in general. And Cancer also can fear criticism and ridicule. They're very shy, often, and timid, and it's hard for them to actually meet really new people. And it just for Cancer can certainly be a candidate to be the most unpopular of the zodiac signs. Now going to Leo. Well, Leo, it's very hard to see if they would be the most unpopular of the zodiac signs because Leo, of course, is very gregarious, very extroverted. They often, they command so much attention. It's not even funny. They love the attention. They love adulation. Leo generally can't stay out of the spotlight for a prolonged or protracted period. Excuse me. Hold on a moment, people. Leo again can be very extroverted, very gregarious. They are the ones, you often find them in the entertainment field. They can be the best people at parties because they could often entertain people there because they could do showcasing their abilities, and they are the ones that just automatically seem to command that attention, and they can't really stand being too unpopular, generally speaking. Maybe it's a thing with their pride and their ego. To some degree, they often have that sunny disposition, given that they are ruled by the sun, and that often will help gravitate people toward them. Um, so anyway, it's hard for me to say that Leo would be the most unpopular of the zodiac signs. Now, Virgo. Well, Virgo certainly can be a candidate given it is a feminine sign. They are ones that could be very shy, very reticent. They often are the ones that would like to bask in Leo's spotlight. Virgo often gravitates toward like a subordinate or subservient role. They are the ones that often remain quiet, and sometimes somebody else may actually get credit for what they do. But Virgo is being service oriented. They make certain connections that way because they often offer their service to others, and that's how they can make their connections. And Virgo, I'm not sure if they are the most unpopular of the zodiac signs, but I will let you know at the end of the video whether I think they are or not. Now, going to Libra. Well, Libra is, it's hard for me to say that they would be the most unpopular of the zodiac signs because Libra can be a socialite. They're the quintessential socialite, and they are the ones that often ingratiate themselves with groups, and they can be, Libra can be, very extroverted as far as, their relationships. They are very relationship oriented. They're often dominated by them, and they often will like to do things, as far as collaborating with others as opposed to doing them independently. They have almost everything but a compulsive need, I believe, to be connected with others. So it would really be hard for me to say that they would be the most unpopular of the zodiac signs. So going to Scorpio. Well, Scorpio certainly can be a candidate given that they're so secretive, they're so reserved. They often have difficulty letting others in their life because they can be arguably the most mistrustful and most suspicious and skeptical of the zodiac signs. They often don't want people in their sphere, their life, because they're afraid they might get that information, that dirt off of them, so to speak, and then use it against them and manipulate them later on because Scorpio can actually be the consummate or quintessential manipulator, but they don't like the tables being turned on them. But remember that Scorpio is not just ruled by Pluto, they're also ruled by Mars, so they could be a little bit more have a little bit more extroverted energy when they want to, maybe when it's trying to attain a position of power or control, because they have certain aggressive energy in them. They can be there's certain ambitious energy, which means you do have to make certain connections in order to attain them. And so I think Scorpio can be a candidate, but I'm not sure if they're the most unpopular of the zodiac signs. And Scorpio, even though they're so secretive and their secrecy, their mysterious nature often brings people to them almost inadvertently, whether they want them or not. So it's hard for me to say that they would be the most unpopular of the zodiac signs. Now going to Sagittarius. Well, Sagittarius certainly, they're very jocular, very jovial. They're a sign that can be very gregarious. They often are very travel oriented. They like to go to foreign countries, often very adventurous. They often like to meet people of different cultures, different nationalities, different backgrounds. So really, because they're so adventurous and travel minded, and the fact that they have such, they're positive energy, they love to bring that to others. Sagittarius can be that incorrigible optimist, and they also often like to really share their knowledge with others, which can be profound. Sagittarius is often very strongly educated, and they like to share this information with others, and they like to also they're often very sports-minded, very athletic, and like to get involved with others as far as those activities go. So it's really hard for me to say that Sagittarius would be the most unpopular of the zodiac signs. They can be very lucky, and that can also be with people and making the right connections as well. Now going to Capricorn. Well, Capricorn can certainly be a candidate. They are a feminine sign. They can be very introverted. They're often simply dominated by their business activities, their ambitions. They are, again, they're dominated by their career interests. They're often um, really, because they're being an earth sign, they could be somewhat mistrustful and skeptical. They really don't trust many people, so it's difficult for them to let others in their lives. But given that they are so ambitious, they often will make those connections and ingratiate themselves with others in order to reach that pinnacle of success. So they may not be the most unpopular of the zodiac signs, but I'll let you know at the end of the video whether I think it's them or not. Now, going to Aquarius. Well, Aquarius can be that universal friend syndrome. They could really have a multitude of acquaintances. They often are very aloof and detached, though they might not make a lot of close connections, but a lot of this is attributed to their freedom because they're so independent and freedom oriented. But given that they have this propensity to make their friendships very constantly and having that universal friend syndrome, it's really very hard for me to say that they are that would be the most unpopular of the zodiac sign. Their humanitarianism often brings people to them. They're just so very kind, very benevolent people, and they are the ones that are really like to do things in very group oriented. So for them to be the most unpopular sign, be hard pressed. Now going to Pisces. Well, Pisces certainly can be a candidate. They often like their solitude, their seclusion. They often like their sanctuary and to get away from the harshness of the reality, the harshness of the world. So sometimes they'll retreat into their own space, kind of like the way Cancer does in a way. But Cancer does it more to go from get away from the general meanness of the world. But what Pisces is, because they like to go into their own reality, their own ideal world, which takes them away from certain negativity of the outside world that they may not agree with. Pisces, though, keep in mind that they are often connected with filmography, given that they are ruled by Neptune, and they may not be the most unpopular zodiac sign for that reason. Even though they could be very shy and reticent, they may not be the most unpopular of the zodiac signs. Now, I'm going to tell you the sign I think is the most unpopular, and it's actually, me having Taurus rising, I should say, know something about this. I think it's Taurus. Maybe unequivocally, because remember, Taurus is very, again, as I stated before, very reserved. They often have trouble expanding their connections beyond their work sphere, beyond their people in their home life. And keep in mind, too, that the zodiac sign Pisces often falls on the 11th house cusp in a solar or natal chart for Taurus. So this could indicate the dissipation and dissolving of friends. And you have to understand too, Taurus also will have Scorpio on the 7th house cusp in a solar or natal chart, and that can indicate the obliteration and destruction of relationships. We're talking about somebody that had a sun in Taurus that was on a Forensic Files episode. And what it was is they said he lived a very monotonous existence. He would basically go to work and do his thing, and then he would go home, and that was it. And a lot of Taurus people, surprisingly, I believe, do follow that. And when I was actually in the working world and I didn't succumb to irrevocable nerve damage, I basically did the same thing. I worked and I went home, and that was basically what my life consisted of. Taurus, for whatever reason, doesn't like, of all the zodiac signs, doesn't like to is least likely to go outside of the box. I think they're unequivocally the most fixed zodiac sign, and unfortunately that could apply to their relationships as well. Taurus can be, even though it's a strong fixed sign, they could be somewhat timid and very reserved, and they really remember that Aries often falls on the 12th house cusp in a solar natal chart for Taurus, so they really have a difficult time. They almost have being very averse to taking action and initiative and enterprise, and really that could apply to their connections as well. And I think sometimes Taurus just does themselves in by not really expanding their horizons, and that can include their friendships as well. Taurus has a difficult time letting others into their life, into their sphere. I think they could be very selective in terms of their friends as well. And I think for those reasons, it seems to me like Taurus winds up being the most unpopular of the zodiac signs. I mean, it's always important to look at the whole chart as well. I have Saturn in the 12th house and it's conjunct my ascendant. Saturn on the ascendant can often indicate an inhibited personality. Saturn in the 12th house, of course, could be very reclusive, very introverted and introspective. So you got to look at the whole chart as well. Somebody that has, a Taurus sun, moon, or ascendant, but they have the majority of their planets above the horizon, will probably be a lot more gregarious and extroverted than the typical Taurus or Taurus sun, moon, or sun. Especially say a person has a Taurus ascendant, but they have a majority of their major astrological influences in masculine signs, and the planets above the horizon in houses 7 through 12 can be much more, might be a lot more extroverted and gregarious, more outgoing than the typical Taurus ascendant. So that's basically what I want to get at. Anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment. And until next time, people, Edwin Learnard saying stay well.